Welcome, science friends, to respiration glycolysis. So here's a quick overview about what glycolysis is and what it looks like. It has reactants and products just like all of our other reactions that happen, including photosynthesis. The first question we need to ask when it comes to cellular respiration is it aerobic or anaerobic? So here we have our two new vocabulary words. Aerobic means requiring oxygen. When we do aerobic exercise, we're using oxygen to help our bodies. Anaerobic is the opposite. Whenever you see that prefix of an or just an a, that means not, or the opposite of. So when we're talking about anaerobic respiration, some sort of respiration that does not require oxygen. It's the opposite. So when we're talking about glycolysis, once sugar comes into a cell, sugar is fuel, carbohydrates store energy, it is split into two pieces, and that's what's happening during glycolysis. To break down that word to understand it a little bit better, glyco means sugar, so when the sugar enters the cell, it is being split, or lysis means to split, so we're splitting apart sugar. In organisms that perform cellular respiration, glycolysis is the first stage of the process. However, glycolysis does not need oxygen. It is anaerobic, and many anaerobic organisms, those that do not need oxygen, also have this glycolysis pathway. It's important to note that glycolysis happens in the cytosol of all types of cells. When I say all types, I mean plant and animal and prokaryotes and eukaryotes. All types of cells go through glycolysis, and because it doesn't require oxygen, it happens in all types. So during glycolysis, we're looking at the molecule of glucose, and it's breaking down into two molecules of pyruvic acid. Now, in this process, what goes in those reactants are the glucose and 2-ADP. We're familiar with ADP from photosynthesis. And we have a new molecule called NAD+. It's very similar to the NADP+. It's just a little bit different since we're looking at cellular respiration instead of photosynthesis. Now, in glycolysis, that glucose gets broken up into those two molecules of pyruvic acid, and we're making those ADPs into ATPs, so we're charging those molecules with energy. The same goes for the NAD+, it's getting changed into NADH, which again, just like in photosynthesis with the NADP+, turning into NADPH, it's basically the same, it's just we're getting rid of a P, where there's no phosphate in this molecule. And again, to compare it with photosynthesis, cellular respiration has those electron carriers, the NAD+, we're adding on a bond, so we're adding some energy to turn it into the NADH. We're just trapping more stuff, we're adding more bonds, keeping a little bit more energy inside of those molecules. So after glycolysis, one of two things can happen, and this is where the oxygen part becomes important. We go through glycolysis whether or not an organism needs oxygen. So if it's an organism that does not need oxygen to continue, usually small organisms like bacteria, they move on to a step called fermentation. If an organism does need oxygen, that means it also needs mitochondria. This will go and turn into the aerobic or aerobic cell respiration. This is really important, and it's kind of a big deal because glycolysis only makes 2 ATPs. It's energy, but it's not a lot of energy. And it's only enough for those really small organisms like bacteria. The majority of the macro or larger than bacteria organisms do go through aerobic respiration because it makes way more ATP or energy. We're looking at about 36 ATP, depending on the efficiency of the organism and their mitochondria. So all eukaryotes need a lot more energy. They have a lot more going on, whether it's single-celled or multi-celled as a eukaryote, because it has more stuff going on. It has all those organelles, it's got all those different functions, it needs more energy. But those simple prokaryotes like bacteria, they only need to go through the anaerobic stuff like glycolysis. That was glycolysis. I hope it helped.